welcome to Let's Talk Real Estate. This is where we get together once a month to answer one question. How do we use real estate as a wealth creation tool? I am your host, Dexter B. Jenkins. We're in a room full of real estate wealth creators. And so we're so excited that you are here tonight. And usually what we do every month is we bring in a real estate expert to really talk about looking at different facets of it. So if you've been following us for some time, we've had real estate agents, we've had lawyers, we've had contractors, wholesalers. And so this month is no different. Actually, I'm going to be the expert tonight. and what we're going to do is we're going to have my lovely wife for 27 years. She's going to be, her and I actually going to be co-hosting, but she's going to be more of the host tonight. I'm going to be more of the expert. And we're covering the 10 commandments of real estate investing. This is a document I put together some time ago. And actually, I got 20 commandments, but I cut them off for the document's sake. We are only going to look at 10. We probably won't even get to all 10 tonight, so we'll do this over 2 or 3 shows or whatever it may be. So we're going to have a lot of time with y'all. So we don't have to rush through it all, but I just thought it'd be a great tool to really just look at what are the principles that we've learned since 2017. My wife and I have been involved in millions of dollars of real estate transactions, so either fixing and flipping, buying and holding. We've been involved as an agent. And so what are some of the things that we've learned during that time? And so I put them into, since I'm a pastor, we're pastors, we put them into commandments because people understand that. And so they're thou shalt nots. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Well, welcome to the show, baby.
Thank you so much, sweetie.
So I'm turning this over to you. I'm the guest, so you're going to be the host tonight.
Yes. I'm Kendra Jenkins. For those of you who do not know me, I do have the pleasure of being married to this wonderful man for 27 years, and we're going to talk about the 10 commandments of real estate. Amen. All right. So we're going to pick Dexter's brain tonight.
Our brain tonight. We're both going to do it.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're going to start out with the first commandment. Thou shalt not fail to get started. The failure to start, getting started. The failure to getting started is the only investing mistake you cannot overcome.
You can't overcome.
So let's elaborate on that.
Well, I think if you look at, what I believe is that the biggest hurdle people getting started, the biggest hurdle people have in real estate investing success is getting started. And there's just anything in life that if you want to do something, you got to get out the gate. Now I've heard people say on the other side, and I agree with this, on the other side, you have to have finishing grace, but you don't need finishing grace until you start. Grace. And so I really believe that most people never get out the gate. Now, you and I have talked about this. Think about how many times we've had people say, I've always wanted to. Yes. I've always thought about something. Like, dude, if I had $10 for every time somebody said, I've been thinking about it, I've been trying to, well, I wish, what would it be like to do that? And, we'd be billionaires, exaggeration, but we'd be extremely more wealthy than we are right now. And so I just really believe that if people can get started, you will learn everything you need to learn on the way. And that's what real business people do. You think about like a huge company like Microsoft, whatever it may be, they have one iteration and then they'll upgrade. Correct. And then they'll upgrade and they'll upgrade. And so I think that if people would just, first of all, make up their mind, because that's where it starts. So you got to make a decision. You know what? I'm going to do this. That's what we did years ago. And actually started with me. Then I brought it to you. But I was one night in my bed just reading some books. And I said, you know what? I'm going to become a real estate investor. Now, I believe it was God inspired. I don't think I just out the blue, I'm going to be a real estate investor. I really believe that was a download. Then I said, you know what? I'm going to do that. And then I began to get my education, because that's the first step. Is once you make the decision, now you got to get into this education mode. And so I began to come to real estate meetups. I began to order books. I began to listen to podcasts. And so once I began to get into because you're learning something totally new. Correct. And so as you're learning a new profession, so to speak, the first step you got to do is obviously second step. First step is deciding you're going to do it. The second step is now I got to get educated. So sometimes the education is maybe coming to meetups like this, or maybe it's YouTube University, it's podcasts. There's just a lot of different ways you can get educated. But I think the biggest mistake that I see, and you and I see, we talk about all the time, are people never getting started. So you'll talk to somebody, they'll be like, oh yeah, no, I haven't done anything with it. It's like, what's up, man? And it's a lot of reasons I think people don't get started. I think number one is fear. It's probably the biggest one. because you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in a transaction. What if I make a mistake? And you look, you are going to make a mistake.
Absolutely.
That's just part of the process. And so the reason why we started this was because what we wanted to do was be a conduit to get people past that first thing. So being able to get them past the fear, because if you can move past the fear, get your first offer in, get your first property, life changes for you.
So let's break it down, because there's a lot of ways to get involved, to enter
100%.
into
Yeah,
real
exactly.
estate. So let's talk about how to break that down a little bit, because I do think part of it is people being overwhelmed
100%.
with the information.
Yeah, because there are so many different ways. The good thing about real estate, that there are a lot of ways to get involved in it. The bad news is there are a lot of ways to get involved in it. So one guy said, "Oh, come wholesale." Another guy, "Oh, hell, wholesale is terrible." "Oh, come over here and flip." Then another person, flipping is horrible. "Come in here, buy big apartments," and no, that stinks. So you can be all over the place, like, oh, you just freak out, like, what do I know what to do? And so I think if you're going to get started, I think number one, it starts to, I got to make a decision. I'm going to do this. Correct. So keep going back to what we always talk about. You have to decide you are going to become wealthy. That's number one. That's the first decision you got to make. And then number two, you got to make a decision. I'm going to use real estate as either the primary tool for my wealth creation or a primary tool. It may not be the only thing. Obviously, we do other things too, but it's probably one of the primary tools that we use. So once it starts there, then you decide after that, which way am I going to go? So I believe it depends on a lot of things. I think it depends on how much time you have to invest in real estate, how much money you may have to invest in real estate, what team that you have around you. So all those will really dictate the particular avenue that you should take. Now, we start off fixing and flipping.
Correct.
So we had access to some equity in our home. So that's how we started. We took out some equity in our home, and then we began to we invested in a coaching program, which we'll maybe talk about a little bit later on. And then after that, we began to get involved in the fix and flip game. Now that may not be what some people do. Some people may not have access to money. So maybe what you do is you go and you find someone who has cash, but you have the time. Got it? And so you're either going to invest either time or money getting started, and you just really have to decide which one you're going to do. And so their path is not going to be our path, but I think that you really have to figure out what's going to work for you, and recognize it's going to take time. You're learning something new. And then you also learn how to think like a business owner, and you learn how to think like an entrepreneur, which is totally different than thinking like an employee. And so that really takes some time. And so I'm always talking to people about really being patient with yourself, recognizing that, hey, don't look at social media, don't look to your left or to the right, but just stay fixed and focused on what your goals are. And once you can stay fixed and focused on what your goals are and pick the path that's right for you, you can move forward.
That's excellent advice. So we're going to move on to commandment number 2.
Commandment number, thou shalt not go it alone.
Thou shalt not go it alone.
Well, that ties into, if you know anything about real estate is a team game. Well, life is a team game, not just real estate. Life is a team game that if you're going to be successful, you got to know that you can't do this alone. And so what you begin to do is when people ask me, Dexter, what should I do first? Outside of making a decision, I said, now you got to go to work building your team. Now, the great thing about it is a lot of times if you come to an event like this, the team is, the components of your team are already there.
Correct.
So some of the people that you want to surround yourself with, you want to begin to align yourself with real estate realtors. We always say investor-friendly realtors mostly. Not the other ones can't bring you a deal, but you want to get investor-friendly realtors. Wholesalers would be. I would lump those two together. Then you want to begin to look at an attorney, right? So we've had attorneys come through here. We got 2 or 3 that we've had come in the last 2 years or so. And then you want to get a financier. You want to get a banker or a hard money person. We've had money people come through here. Then you want to get tradespeople. We've had a trade person come. So what you want to look at is, if I'm summarizing, number one, your first person you want to be is someone to help you to find deals. So that's your realtor, that's your wholesaler. The next you want to deal with your money person. So that's your banker. That's whether it's a traditional lender or it's a hard money lender. It really just depends on what you're trying to do deal wise. The next after that, you want to look at an attorney because, hey, this is a what?
It's a legal
It's a legal
transaction.
transaction. And so you need a good real estate attorney, not just an attorney,
Just not
not
a
somebody
real
who
estate
practices
attorney.
law. Well, they may not, whoever you get for your lawyer, you want them to have a major leg of their business
And expertise.
and
Yes.
expertise inside of real estate. Now, it may not be their only thing that they do, but it has to be a major part of their business. I don't know if you guys remember, because we got a studio audience here today, y'all. When David Lebwith and Starling Els was at the event, and they
At the
both said the
summit.
same thing at the summit. Last year. Make sure you're there this year's summit, April 4th and I think April 4th and 5th. April 4th and 5th. 2025, make sure you're there. But anyway, the last year's event, they talked about making sure whoever you're with has a major part of their business inside of a real estate transaction. I remember Starling telling the story of how he closed took a lot longer than it needed to because the lawyer on the other side, that wasn't his main thing. So if that's not his main thing, of course it's going to slow things down, right? So you want to make sure you have that, and then you want to have a good GC. For those of you who don't know what a GC is, that's a general contractor. So a general contractor is someone who has a license, and then what they do is they pull your carpenter in, they'll pull your plumber in, they'll pull your electrician, so they'll pull the other trades in, and so they sort of oversee those people. So that's part of who you want to begin to build on your team. And we always say this: you want to have, I believe in practicing the Noah's Ark theory. You want 2 or 3 of everything.
Correct. Because people get busy.
Because people get busy, people retire.
Yes.
We've had our first general contractor, as you know, he moved. How dare he move?
He did.
He and his wife moved to North Carolina. Obviously, we were happy for them, but it was a loss for us.
Correct.
And so you're always looking to build your team around you. Now that team is the team that's outside of your house, but obviously, the first team that you really want to build, if you can, is in your household.
Correct.
So the reason why you and I can do some things that we do is because we're a team. Now, if you don't have a supportive team in your house, well, you got to look outside that. And so that's why we put together this group, because we can be your squad, we can be your team. And I heard this years ago when I was doing network marketing from a guy, if I know the mention name, you know who it is, but his guy's name was Keith Otto. And one of the things he would say all the time is, I know you're not confident, but he would say this: borrow our confidence until you get your own. Which I thought was a powerful line, is because when you're starting out in this, you don't have a lot of confidence. You're not supposed to, because you're new.
Correct.
And then what happens is, as you begin to get around the energy of the group, and you begin to get around the energy of your mentors and things of that nature, you can borrow their confidence. And then after a while, their confidence becomes your confidence. And then you can stand on your own 2 feet and have your own confidence. And so that's the power of building a team. And you're always looking to build. You're always looking to, as I'm out, maybe say at a Home Depot, if I'm driving my car, sometimes I'll be behind people. I'll take a picture, click, of a truck or
a trades van,
like a trades van, or people have come to me at different events. Hey, I'm a carpenter, and I grab their number, because you just never know, when you're gonna need somebody. So the project that you and I just finished up. The young man who did a lot of the work, the finished carpentry work on the property, I met at not at this event, but at another real estate meetup.
Correct.
Well, all of the people a good portion of your people you will probably meet if you come to events like this, because they're there and they're like-minded. You know what I mean? And so you want to begin to build your team right away. Now, one of the biggest things I find that people say, well, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't have any experience. And I'm not saying fake it till you make it, but what you have to do is you have to think proactively. Meaning, one day I'm going to have some things in motion, and what you're beginning to do is build your team. And so it comes down to the thing of, you don't want to wait till it's raining to get your umbrella out.
Correct. And I think it's about being creative too, because will say that I feel that the real estate community is a very giving one.
Oh, 100%.
When you go to real estate meetups and things of that nature, people they're there to help. They're there to train. And I think that, let's just say you don't have enough money to go to a program.
Correct.
You could go give your time to someone. Can I follow you around? Can I be of some assistance to you? And no one's really going to turn that down.
Right.
So there's ways to get this done without having to have a giant spend. So to get around the
Exactly.
community,
Yeah,
to understand and get a feel for what you're looking to do.
And I mean, we invested, but there are a lot of times we've had people just come to us and, hey, can I come hang out?
100%.
And I've gone to people's houses and different things because I like real estate. And I like them, and so I've gone and looked at houses. Say, hey, look at this, look at that, and we didn't charge them any money. Now we have consulted in times past with some projects, but that was more of a time spend. But I've gone to people's things, and because not saying I'm trying to pay it forward, but because I have an interest in people and helping folks, and so I don't think I'm any different. Like to your point, as I've gone to other people's projects, our first mentor to Daniel Collins, went to a lot of his stuff. And then as I met other people, I said, "Hey, man, you got a project? Can I pop in?" And people are, like you said, they're more than willing to help. And so, to Kendra's point, do not let the lack of funds stop you.
Correct.
And we're also learning how to think like rich people think and wealthy people think. And one of the things with rich and wealthy people do not do is they do not allow the lack of money to stop them. What they do is they find a way to get the job done. And so. In my upcoming book, I talk a lot about thinking creatively, because and I got this from another friend of mine, Robert Holland. I don't know who he got it from, but what he says is this: when finances are low, creativity must be high.
Yes.
And so you begin to think about, well, how can I get this done? Because what happens is anytime you say I can't afford it, your mind shuts down. Now, if you flip it around and say, okay, well, how can I get this done? Now, and just this whole thought process, now, this is another tip, y'all, because y'all know this is about financial literacy as well as real estate wealth creation. I can't afford it really isn't a valid reason. Now, why is that? Because all of us have bought things we couldn't afford. So you can't tell me, everybody, people in the studio as well as the people out there, all of us have figured if we really wanted to do it, we said, okay, how come you figured out something? So you call mama or you did something, maybe work some, you figured it out. So what it has to do is go back to our original decision. How bad do I want it?
Correct.
Because when I decide I'm gonna be a real estate investor, real estate, as we call a real estate wealth creator, now what I gotta do is I gotta define what does wealth mean to me? And I think after my decision, now I got to take some time getting down on the inside, what exactly I want this real estate to produce for me. So is it to retire early? Is it to retire my mother? Is it to, we've had friends who say, hey, man, I want to buy an island someplace. Well, I'm like, well, that's possible. See, because real estate, when you become proficient at it, it will open doors for you and allow you to do a lot of different things. And so after my decision's made, now I got to decide what exactly do I want. Now, when I keep that decision in front of me, what begins to happen is my creativity and my ingenuity kicks in. But if I don't have the goal in front of me, of course, so now when any obstacle comes up against you, and as we know this, but you have a lot of them, now I can't afford it, or I can't do this. Like, no, it's just that you haven't gotten your desire juices up yet to enough to the point where you can figure some things out.
That's an excellent point, just because even if you think about, not getting started, if you have true goals in front of you that you want to get started, like that you want, there's a tangible thing to look at, you can get creative.
Right.
That's going to drive you forward. That's going to drive you past your point of being comfortable.
Correct.
To get to where you want to go.
Right.
If it's really, truly in there.
Well, think about the guest that we had last month, Jason, I forgot how to pronounce Jason's last name.
But Jason, the wholesaler.
It ain't Jason Johnson. But anyway, Jason was a prime example of, he was like, because when he came and sat with us, one of the things he said was, he came and sat with me when, I think in 2023, we started talking about the year of getting started. That was our theme.
Yep.
And I was saying that, how many times you come to meetings like this and not get started. And he was like, man, I got so excited. I want to get up out of here and get moving. But, he said, I'm going to quit my job. And I was like, ooh, in my mind, I was sort of backed up like, I don't know if you should do that. But the young man quit his job. Now, he had some resources and things that he had some savings that he had. But he identified, this is what I want.
Correct.
And then when he decided that's what he wanted, he put a game plan in place, and then he's willing to make the sacrifices needed in order to bring his goals to pass. And so now, he's he didn't say this, but and he said it on other podcasts publicly. He's made over six figures over the last 12 to 18 months. Well, here's a young man who had no experience in this, no confidence, nothing else, and then now he is a different man than he was when I met him, when he sat in the shit that you're sitting in right now last month. He's a totally different person.
Correct.
And so that speaks to, number one, desire, but number two, it speaks to the person you have to become to do the things to have what you want to have.
Correct.
So it's always going to be the be, the do, and the have principle. See, many of us run to the have. I want to have this. Well, okay, are you willing to do the things necessary to do that?
Correct.
Number one, to get that. But then number one, are you willing to enter into a phase of development?
And I was just going to say that it's not on here as a commandment, but it has to be, thou shalt be a student.
Yes.
Because every deal is different, and nobody knows everything.
I know that's right.
And so you have to humble yourself to be like, I don't know, and be able to say to somebody, can you please teach me?
Right.
Can you please tell me?
Right.
How many times have we walked around a house with a contractor and we're just like, tell me what you see. Why can't we do this? Explain this to me.
Yeah, exactly.
And even though we're the ones with the money in the project, right? It's our project. We're still asking the questions. We're saying why, what's going on. You go into a new community, it's a different set of rules in that community. But it's one of those things where you have to be able to be a student. You have to be able to humble yourself and say, I don't know. And be okay with that.
Yeah.
And even if you're in here 10 years, 15 years, to still be like, if there's a new situation, what's going on with that, right? Because things are changing all the time.
All the time.
We had to put in the house that we were just finishing up, a hookup for an electric car. That wasn't the way it was 5 years ago, right? There's just certain things you didn't have to do. Everything has to be.
That, and we'd never done a septic tank.
Correct. Yep.
So that was new for us. Because we're in a community where
you have septic. There's no town sewer.
Septic. I'm like, okay, now I've been around people who have done septic tank, but we had never
had to do it.
Done one physically for our own projects. And so, okay, so this is a learning experience. And so, to your point, you're always a student.
Yes.
You're always learning the latest and the greatest. And so, and even people who have been doing this a lot longer than we have, as I listen to them talk, they're always learning. They have mentors and coaches, and so you always putting yourself in a position of being humble and being ready to learn. And because if you ever get to the point where you think you know everything, your downfall is certain.
Correct. And I think that's interesting too, because you get started in one place,
right,
and then it continues to build on itself.
Correct.
Many of the people that we've talked about, and even ourselves, you start with the one family, get to the two family, get to the three, the four, and there's, buying 30 units, buying 60 units,
storage units,
all these things. And so, as you're going along this journey, those opportunities are going to come, but you won't want to, just because you don't know exactly what to do, you still want to be able to have the opportunity, because you can find someone who can show you how to get it done.
It's like any part of your education. You didn't learn everything in the first grade.
Correct.
You went to the second grade. It was always it was a building, and so it's just a matter of fact of making sure that you're learning consistently. So you're coming to events like this. You're coming to our summits. You're reading different books. You're listening to different podcasts. You're getting around different people. And I was telling the young man I had went to lunch with last week or 2 weeks ago. He was here last month, and I was saying I don't expect to get everything from one teacher.
Correct.
So I have several teachers, who I'll pick up something from this person, something from this person, this from this book, and after a while, you have a cumulative amount of knowledge.
And if they don't have the answer,
exactly,
they have somebody call this other person.
Exactly.
So it's all of these networks of people.
Correct.
And it's so interesting too, where something I've noticed over and over again, even Jason, he met you. Can we go to lunch? Can I have a conversation with you? Other people, can I go to lunch and have a conversation with you? And you've done the same thing.
True.
And it's, to have someone's one-on-one time, to be mentored really just for that hour. It doesn't mean it's a consistent thing, but to be able to pick somebody's brain, everybody's really willing to do that, which is awesome. Yeah. So we've done number 1 and number 2, right? Thou shalt not fail to get started. Thou shalt not go it alone. So number 3 is you've gotten yourself where you've gotten yourself in the game. So the number 3 is thou shalt always maintain
Thou shalt always maintain
consistent deal flow.
consistent deal flow. Any questions from the audience before we go on? Are we good? Okay. So
I'm the moderator today.
Okay, I'm sorry. You're right. You're right, baby. I forgot. Usually I'm doing the moderating. Okay, so that means that you're supposed to ask them. I'm just playing. But number 3 is thou shalt always maintain consistent deal flow. Means this, depending on what your goals are, that the number one skill that we have to develop as real estate investors is the ability to find deals.
Yes.
Right? Because it's the deals that allows you to accomplish your goals.
Correct.
So depending on what your goals are, so some people, hey, look, I want to add one multifamily property to my portfolio every year. Well, maybe you could talk to 4 or 5 people in a year and you'll find a deal that you need. Well, for you, that's consistent deal flow.
Correct.
Or for somebody who wants to make a 6-figure income, or maybe just whatever, just save an extra $50,000 a year. Well, that's a different deal flow, And so whatever your particular goal is, you got to recognize that you're going to need consistent deal flows. And so what we encourage people all the time to do is to make sure that they always have looking at deals.
Correct.
And so students that we've had the opportunity to coach, what we've talked about is sign up for email lists.
Correct.
So whether it's from auction houses or whether it's from real estate agents, whether it's from wholesalers, always have deals coming into you so that you can decide, okay, based off of what I'm trying to do at this particular point in time, what I will do is I can tap into the deals. And so there's always, and this is a good point too, there's always enough deals to go around. And so people sometimes, we'll talk about this in a second, sometimes people get desperate. Right. Oh, I'm going to miss that. Like, dude, believe me.
It's just like the sale at the store.
It's like,
there's
man,
always going to be a sale.
Thank you. There'll always be a Zales, or you don't shop at Zales, but there'll always be some store that always be running some sort of sale. And so you don't have to get anxious and worrisome, but just recognize that, because people always, this is what the deal is. Real estate transactions are always happening.
Correct. Correct.
And so, but point number 3 is, if I'm going to be successful, I've got to have a consistent flow of deals coming through. And I picked this up years ago, actually not that many years ago, but it seemed like years ago. But I'm thinking about last year when I went to our friend Tommy Jones's conference. Well, his goal was to make $1 million a year. Well, he didn't say that, but that's what I heard, is to make millions of dollars doing real estate.
Yep.
Well,
while helping people.
Yeah, by helping other folks, correct. But, he needs a different deal flow. And so he said the year, I think it was 2022, he and his team had contacted like 800 homeowners. And out of the 800 homeowners, they had actually physically talked to about 200 of them. And then out of 200, they end up doing business with like about 50 of them. And then that yielded them like $1 million for that particular year. So my point being is, depending on what your goal is, that's what the consistent deal flow comes in at. But his goal was different than the person who wants to, I want to buy one,
correct,
one multifamily every other year, Yep. And neither goal is wrong.
Correct.
It just depends on what you want to do. Excellent point. Yeah.
All right. So number 4 is, I think, where you wanted to get to, is that you should not overpay up front in the deal.
Yeah. So that is, something that we have. I really didn't understand it, but I've heard people who, when we first started getting involved in some of this stuff, we kept saying that, and this is the principle, that your profit is made on the front end of the deal and is realized on the back end. So to give you an official real estate term, on the acquisition side is when you make it.
At the buy it right.
But then you realize, or you pocket the profit on the back end. So it means this: if I overpay for a property on the front end, I'm probably going to lose money on the back end.
Or your profit's going to be quite low.
Or your profit's going to be low. And so what you have to do is which we got to, I think we got it somewhere on, you have to do your due diligence on the front end to make sure that you're buying a deal. Now, So what does that look like, Dexter? If I'm looking to buy a fix and flip property, I want to make sure that I get it. I buy it at a certain purchase. I purchase at a certain number. Then I got to put my rehab budget in there, which has a number of different things. And then what I do is I have to have my ARV. And so what we've taught years ago was that once I know what I'm gonna buy it for, I know how much I got to put into it, and I can know what I sell it for. Then I can make a decision as to whether this is a deal I want to pursue.
And you need to know how much profit you want to get on the other
Exactly.
end.
Yeah. I was about to say that. And so usually, when we first started out, we had a goal of looking at everything, not looking at anything that would at least make us $50,000 a year. $50,000 profit. Now, depending on where you are, that I've talked to people who say who they're good with 30, some are good with 25. So just you have your own number, but a lot of times what we'll find is that people will say, okay, if I purchase this and I do X, Y, and Z, and it's like, no, the numbers are the numbers. I think this is one of the principles on here is that one of the commandments is, we've talked about this here over and over again. You can't get emotionally involved in this.
It is a numbers game.
It is 100. Y'all see me out there in TVville because I know there are a number of people who couldn't make it tonight. So I'm talking to y'all. The numbers are the numbers. And so a lot of times, and I've done this too. I'm like, well, if we do X, Y, and Z, and then like, no, and then you got to really suffer. I'm like, no, this is not which we talk about all the time. This is not my house I'm gonna live in, and the only reason why I'm doing this, my barber, is because I want to make a profit.
Yeah.
So if I don't analyze the numbers right up front, I'm not going to make the profit on the back end. And so I got to realize that my profit, I make it on the front end, but I don't get that profit check until I sell it. But if I jack it up in any stage, so if I don't do it right at the purchase, or another part which we don't talk about enough is if I don't manage the rehab right, because the rehab can get out of control quickly.
Easily.
Because you never know what's going to happen when you start opening up walls and dealing with contractors and whatever else. And so I got to manage that whole process, and then I got to manage obviously on the disposition side or the ARV or the sales side.
And I think people get overly exuberant about the sale
100%.
price also.
And now we've mentioned people who we've talked to about that, right? And we were like, because
I think I can get the high of the market.
Nope. And watch it now. This is the principle, y'all. You always want to go conservative with your ARV numbers. I'm going to say that one more time. You want to do what? You want to be conservative with your ARV numbers. If you go to my YouTube channel, I have a video on that. And I said the number one mistake that new investors make is that they are overzealous, like you said, with their ARV.
Correct.
So if the ARV, which stands for after repair value, is this, if they say I can sell it for $500,000, well, if they say I can make in between $450,000 and $500,000, they do what? They go off the $500,000 number. That's a mistake. What you want to do is you want to go off the $450,000, right? Now, if I get over $450,000, anything over that is gravy. You know what I mean? But don't go on a high number, because what if you don't get the high number? And if all your numbers are based off of you getting the high numbers, and guess what? You don't get the high numbers, guess what you may not make? You ain't going to make a profit. So you always want to be extremely conservative with your numbers. So that's if you're doing a fix and flip. Now, if you're doing a buy and hold, what you want to do is you always want to make sure, number one, is cash flowing.
Correct.
Say cash flowing, class.
Cash
flowing. Do not buy anything that is not cash flowing.
Meaning
at the end of after when you collect all the rents, and if you have other maybe you got laundry that you can get money off of, or you have garage, after you collected all that and you paid off all the expenses, at the end of that it's called cash, and you want to make sure it's flowing. So that's cash flow, right? So after you pay the they call it the PITI, principal, insurance, taxes, and all that, and then you got, if you have management fees in there and all that, and then you also want to put some money in there for what they call capital expenditures, meaning, if the roof is going to go, so you want to stick a little bit aside away for that, and then you also want to stick a little bit aside for, any other
ongoing maintenance,
and taxes. So after you do all those numbers, You need to make sure that there's a profit at the end of that. Now, I was asked this question: what is an acceptable number for that? And the question is, it depends on how much you want to make. Because I know some people who say, look, if I could make $300 a door, I'm good. I know some people say if I can make $100 a door, so if I have 4 or 5 doors and at the end of the month I have $400 at the end, they'll buy that investment. So it really just depends on what you want to do. But the number one thing on the buy and hold side is this: you have to make sure there's cash flow.
Correct.
Because what people do is, depending on certain areas, they have you betting on the appreciation.
Yeah.
And when you're betting on appreciation, that's like gambling. Now, has real estate appreciated historically? Of course it has, right? But you can't go off. You can't count on that. But what I can count on is making sure that whatever property that I look at, that is cash flowing.
Currently,
yeah.
Yes.
So meaning this: when I buy it at the end of the first month, I'm positive, not negative.
Correct.
Got it? So those are some things that you want to look at. When we looked at our properties that we've bought, that was the number one rule. I like to have things that cash flow. I like to have things that have equity in it.
Correct.
Now, sometimes you may have a lot of equity. Sometimes you may have a little bit, but I like to have some equity in it. Meaning that after we buy it, now a lot of times if you buy it and you're able to give it some love,
Correct.
That can
You're
drive,
creating equity.
Yeah, you're creating the equity piece of it. Now you have to have a stomach for that. Now some people don't have a stomach for that. We do, So you could buy a turnkey property where hey, it's already rocking and rolling and going. You don't have to put any into it or not much at all.
Yep.
And it's rocking and rolling. We've had one our community. Della did that. Her property she bought that was pretty much turnkey. Had a few things she had to do, but for the most part, she walked in with equity. She walked in with cash flow. Did a few things and she's been rocking and rolling ever since. Then we've met other people who, that thing is ugly.
and you in general will make more money off the uglies for sure.
Yeah,
but
100%.
It just depends on what stage of life you are and what goals you have. There's nothing wrong with buying something that's turnkey or buying something that needs work. There's nothing wrong with it. It just depends on how you want to operate your business.
Exactly.
And that's one of the biggest things about real estate too is it's your business. You get to operate it in the way you want to operate it. What you want to do might not be the same as I want to do. Well, in our case it does, but for somebody else, right? And don't let anybody else throw you off how you want to run your business.
Exactly. Because and that's why I was one of my first statements was that's the reason why it can be confusing if you're not careful. Because some people, wholesaling stinks. Then we've had Jason, wholesaling is great. Then as a matter of fact, I got another guy coming the next month. He's a wholesaler. He has a 7-figure business, a wholesaler. So he would say wholesaling is great.
Exactly.
So you really have to decide what's going to work for you. And then once you decide what's going to work for you, your particular strategy, that's what you go with.
For us, I believe it really allowed us to really clearly know what our goals were and clearly know how we wanted to do things. It really sort of wipes things away on either side, where it's like, this is how we're running.
Exactly.
And so that way, it's not all the things. It's like, this is how we've chosen to do business.
Well, and I mean, you like rehabbing. You like to take ugly things and make them pretty and all that. And I don't like to, but my wife really likes to do that. When I shadow you going around properties and things of that nature, I'm like, this woman is lighting up as we're taking this ugly cabinet and, looking for quartz and, because usually I'm the camera guy, so all the pictures that you guys see on social media with me taking the pictures, because my wife doesn't do it, I do that most of the time, so, because I recognize the important thing of building a brand so that when people think about real estate, they think about you. That's a way of marketing yourself. But you really like to do that. When you and I met many, many years ago, you should watch This Old House and all these old shows that was on rehab, and I'd be walking through the house, Monica, and be like, "What is she watching?" Not interested at all. I ain't watching that. And then eventually I start watching HGTV and all that, and then we're off to where we are right now. But there are some people I know, they don't want anything to do with a rehab. They want something that's already up and moving.
Yep. And there's nothing wrong with that
And there's
either.
nothing wrong with it. So it just really depends on your temperament. It really depends on the team that you have. It also
Correct.
depends on the money that you have. All those will play a part in you deciding
100%.
which route you're gonna go.
Excellent. So let's go on to number 5.
Number 5.
Thou shalt not have only one way to get out of this
Thou
property.
shall not have all. Oh my goodness, we could lately we can amen this principle.
Yes, 100%.
You know, really, in my opinion, there are 3 monetization strategies that you have in real estate. Number one, it's and it's no particular order. I'm just saying them like this. You can wholesale.
Yep.
You can fix or flip, or you can buy and hold. And there are different variations. You can hotel and just other stuff and long. Then you can get buy and hold. It could be short term, long term, Airbnb and Verbo, and all different things like that. But really, those, in my opinion, those are really the big 3 of when you really look at what people do. They're either wholesaling property. For those of you who don't know what a wholesaler is, you can go look at last month's show. So I ain't got time to really dig that deep into it. But really, as a wholesaler, you're acting as a middle person.
Correct.
You know, so you're
You're
connecting.
finding the deal and trying to connect the person with that.
You're acting as a middle person between the seller, a distressed seller, and someone who's an investor, right? And so you're connecting the two. That's what you're doing there. Now, when you're buying and holding, that's what it means. You find a piece of property that you can buy and put into your portfolio on some level, and then fixing and flipping what you're doing. You find something that's distressed, or so either the seller is distressed or the property is distressed, and you're fixing it up, and then you're going to bring it back to market. So those are 3 ways you're going to do something. Now, the reason why you need to have more than one strategy is because somewhere in the middle of that, the market may shift on you.
Correct.
So think about this: when our two family New Bedford, COVID hits.
Yes.
So that means that now we had planned on keeping it anyway. That one we actually bought 2.
We actually
during
bought
COVID.
2
We
during
actually
COVID.
wholesaled 1, which we hadn't planned on doing. Right. So talking about having more than one extra strategy, and then the other one we ended up keeping, which is still part of our portfolio. But you know, you're always looking to say, okay, if I buy this piece of property, if the market shifts, can I monetize it?
Correct. And be willing to pivot.
Listen, that's worth you watching right here. For those of you who ain't up in here tonight, when you buy something, you want to make sure, okay, if I buy this as a buy and hold, if the market shifts, can I keep this and make it part of my portfolio? So maybe it's one I keep it for my own buy and hold, or maybe I can do buy and hold for the homeless, or just a lot of different ways you can do it. So you're always looking for more than one way to do that. And so if I can't find a buyer as a wholesaler, can I keep this in my own portfolio? Or sometime if the market shifts and you planned on holding it, but then somebody comes to you and gives you gives you an offer you can't refuse. You know, and so
and that gets into the emotion of it.
Right.
It's not your house. This is a business acquisition.
Right.
So it's one of those things where if someone were to come to us on 439 and give us a great offer, instead of us like, no, this is our house, is this the right thing to do for our business at this moment in time?
Right. Yeah. Because Rob Nichols, who's been a guest here, he owned like a 6-family in Fall River. And so he was I wasn't even part of the conversation. I overheard him talking to another person. And he said, yeah, we had a 6-unit in Fall River. He said, but I got an offer I couldn't refuse.
Right. And I think the other thing, too, is looking at a property and understanding all of the places where you can monetize it.
Correct.
For instance, in our 2-family, we rehabbed the 2-family, but there's an opportunity to make it a 3. Correct. We had a garage that we rehabbed so that we can rent that out. So it's all it might not be you might have a full vision for something.
Right.
But money for that moment this is what we're doing now. Right. We're holding that so we will do the third floor if we decide to do that.
If we don't sell it prior.
Yeah, exactly. But if someone were to come to us and give us a great opportunity that makes sense for our business at the time, we would completely sell that property.
Well, that's what happened to one of our properties. That was because we bought two families in Bedford during COVID.
2 weeks apart.
Yeah, a little longer than that, but fairly close together. And the
market shifted.
The market shifted, and our friend Scott, he said, "Hey, Dexter, you got two families. I got somebody looking for one."
Yep.
And we ended up selling.
Well, it was also very opportunistic because there were barely any two families for sale at that moment in
Exactly.
time. And so when inventory is low, people will buy
Yeah.
things for more money. So
Right.
we had planned on rehabbing it, but
Somebody gave us an
but
offer
someone
we
gave
couldn't refuse.
and
They called a Godfather offer.
yeah, and it was a cash sale and it closed quickly and there we go.
Yeah, that's so. Somebody gives you an offer, I'm gonna give you an offer you can't refuse. Well, it's one
But
of them offers
basically
that we couldn't refuse.
yeah, for of those two we held one and we
Yeah,
wholesaled
exactly.
another.
Yeah.
And if it hadn't the offer hadn't come, we would have we would
found a
have
way to
do the other
rehab it
product. Yep.
and keep it as a buy and hold. And so it just becomes just my barber. You need to duck your head. You walk in front of the camera. Too late there. But anyway, from now on, if you go that way. But anyway, but that's what you want to do. You want to make sure that you're using multiple exit strategies. So I can't go and say if this is the only way I can monetize this because the market shifts on you.
Correct.
Either positively or negatively. And so,
And even when you buy and hold, there's so many avenues for buy and hold. There's traditional, you're renting to somebody for under a lease for a
Right.
year. There's visiting nurses. There's homeless programs. There's so many ways to monetize.
Section 8
8, all those things.
like you said, the traveling nurses recently, we haven't done it, but I'm gonna have her come in. But the woman who works with nonprofits, so like the Pine Streets and all that, and so they already, because those organizations are looking for housing, right? And so as a real estate investor, what you can do is you can that the great thing about this is you can contract with the organization.
Correct.
And they take care of all the management. Now y'all didn't hear this, but the studio audience,
It's a
so it's extremely attractive if you can pull it off. Meaning
Correct.
that, and then on top of this, you get more than what you would get off regular rent.
correct.
And so we have a friend
Renting rooms, yep.
who's renting rooms. She's part of our community. I think she's getting what, $1,500
Per room,
per room.
something of that nature.
Yeah. So if they're getting $1,500 per room, dude, that's more than what you would get if you were doing regular rent.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Or you can do VRBO. You can do Airbnb. You can do all of the things.
Lot of different ways that you can monetize what you're doing, and so you're looking at all the different ways you can do it. Because I think a lot of times people get trapped, and then also. Then this is another thing that a lot of people get stuck up on. I don't want to be a landlord. Well, we're not talking about you being a landlord. We're talking about you being a business owner.
Correct.
And that's the shift in your mindset, because you can hire somebody if you make enough money.
100%.
If the property makes enough money, you can hire someone to manage the property for you if you don't want to do that.
And we had a conversation with someone who was really on the fence about being a landlord, and I said, "Well, do you like somebody else paying your mortgage?"
Right.
And they just sort of stopped. And I'm like, that's what you're turning down.
That's what we're doing.
You're turning that down by saying, I don't want to be a landlord. And there's a lot of ways to be landlords.
Right.
You can have low touch, you can have high touch.
Exactly, yeah.
There's a lot of ways to get that done.
Touch.
No touch at all.
No touch. Well, because what we're doing is this, and this is what all of us have to understand. So whether you're here in the studio audience or whether you're out there watching this on television, you're creating leverage for yourself.
Correct.
Leverage is the ability to make what? I don't define you guys not in front of me, but this is what leverage is. Leverage is the ability to earn money with less effort.
Yes.
And that's what you want to do. Well, when you have a tenant paying whatever it is, or whether it's a traditional rental, or whether it's, some things we've talked about, you're making more money with less effort.
Correct.
And so you have to understand that that's how wealth is built. We're doing this to become wealthy, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Right. And so, and the problem is a lot of times we're somebody else's leverage.
Correct.
So we're the bank's leverage with our deposits. We're our landlord leverage with our
Paying
rent.
rent, yep.
You know what I mean? We're our employers' leverage as employees.
Correct. Yep.
And so we are being leveraged, but we're not leveraging.
Correct.
And one of the ways you can leverage is through this thing called real estate.
estate.
And so now you got to shift your mind from I don't want to be a landlord, and the young man, back to him again. And he said, well, I had people tell me I shouldn't own property as a landlord, and because the toilet's going to break and all. I said, you know what? You know how many times I've gotten a call about something breaking? Like,
No.
and like, since we've been doing this? Like 3 times.
Yes, it's not a lot.
So that means that out of all the times that we've been doing this since 2016, and even prior to that when my dad was doing it as a kid, I can remember him doing a handful of things to solve a problem.
That
and I said, well, and this is what you got to understand. You're a problem solver anyway.
Right.
So just solve the problem, keep moving.
Exactly.
And in this case, solve the problem and collect the check. Because that's what you're doing. So once I get the problem solved, I made 1 or 2 phone calls. Hey, go. We had one of my tenants, a hot water heater went off in the middle of the night. I don't know if it was middle of the night, but it was
in the middle of the night.
Middle of the night, yeah, or early evening.
Yep.
So I said, hey, look, we'll take care of it tomorrow morning. So I can't do nothing tonight. Well, sometimes
made a couple calls.
Some plumbers can get out there in the middle of the night, but at this case, he couldn't have got a hot water heater for that at that time anyway. Unless he had some stock. But anyway, I made 1 call, 2 or 3 calls. Next day, she had one. So less than 24 hours later, she had a hot water heater and she was good.
Right.
Well, we've had a handful of calls in that time, and so listen, it's a limiting belief you're dealing with.
Yes.
And so you got to get rid of that. You got to get rid of that. Hey, look, my goal is to become what? Wealthy, say class, wealthy class.
Wealthy.
My goal is to become wealthy. So as a wealthy person, wealthy people handle problems. And so sometimes the problem may be a toilet or whatever it may be. Now, as your portfolio gets big enough, you don't have to do it. Hire somebody else to do it. But, don't let that stop you from even getting, back to our first point, even getting started, because that's where most people get sucked in. Well, I don't want to be, I don't want to change. I'm like, we don't do that either. But
P.S. a new toilet is like $300 installed. So it's not. It's these big, to your point, limiting beliefs with really small money attached to it.
Exactly.
But
it's big to you.
It's big to you at that moment, but really it's not giant.
Yeah, but you'll grow to that. We did. I mean, I never had the thing, and you and I never had that issue. We don't want to be landlords and stuff, but.
Well, our first house was a 3-family.
Yeah, first family. I grew up in a multi, so that was a norm for me. Now it wasn't a norm for you, but for a lot of you out there, you may not have grown up in that, and so when you think about buying your first house, one of the things I always recommend is, if you can, is to buy a multifamily first.
Absolutely.
Buy a 2-family or buy a 3-family. Let somebody pay your rent. Now it doesn't have to be forever. It could be 2 or 3 years, and then what you do is, you leverage that into something else, because what they're doing is, as they're paying your mortgage, you're getting the tax benefits of it. You're getting the appreciation. You're getting the depreciation, which is we're talking more of a tax thing right now. But there's just so many benefits, and it's only for a short period of time. So you say, so you say, I'm gonna do this for 3 or 4 years, and then I'm gonna take this and parlay that into a single family that I want.
Correct. And meanwhile, you're saving all the money that you would have paid.
You should.
You should be.
If you're doing it right, and then even some people that I know who have, talked about using the money that they had in their multifamily to pay off student loans or whatever else. It just what we're trying to get across to you is this: there are so many different options of things you can do, but you got to open your eyes, and you got to have a little bit of courage, and you got to get into community, and you can't be afraid to take on stuff. So.
Excellent. So we've gone through 1 through 6, but we have only a little bit of time left.
We got 7 minutes left.
So I was going to turn it over and see if anybody had any questions. Number 6 is you should not speculate on.
Did we do number 6?
You spoke on it already, that you should not speculate. You should have the numbers right.
Yeah. Well, let's look at it just for camera's sake. Number 6 is, thou shalt not speculate when analyzing.
Analyzing deals. The numbers are the numbers.
The numbers are the numbers. And so we did talk a little bit about that, is that a lot of times we can be idealistic with our numbers. And you don't want to do that. The numbers are the numbers. And so we always say be extremely conservative.
Correct.
With that, right? So you're looking at ARV. The ARV is between 450 and 500. Well, don't bank on the 500. Count on the 450, and if you get over that, that's gravy. So. But you don't want to speculate. Speculation is gambling.
Right.
And that we don't want to do when it comes to our real estate transactions.
And even on the rehab budget, if you are doing a rehab, it's a 30% contingency in there to make sure that you're covered there too. You just have to be very cautious about your numbers.
A contingency is your best friend, because you will
need it.
Run into things, and things will cost more money, and then maybe you hit something like COVID where
all the prices
materials go up, and you're in the middle of that. and so you want to make sure that you have an emergency cushion contingency fund, as we call it.
Thank you. Are there questions from the audience? No questions from the audience. All right. We'll go on to the next one. Number 7.
We can do probably at least one more, or 1 or 2 more.
Thou shalt always have a multitude of banking and money relationships.
Thou shalt always have a multitude of banking and money relationships. And so what we talk about is there are probably 3 or 4 ways that you can fund a real estate transaction. So there's your money,
Yes.
right? There you can go traditional route.
Yes.
You can go hard money, and then you can go private money. And all of those have, and you want to use all 4 of those in your transactions, and all of them have different strengths and so on and so forth. And so obviously your money is money that you saved up. So whether you got some money savings, or whether you got a 401k, or you got some equity, or mama give you some, or Ray and them, Pookie and them give you some money, that's that
It's
money.
cash money.
Yeah, it's cash money, or access to it. And then, obviously banking money. So if you got a credit union or a Santander you can go to,
Traditional
that's
lending.
traditional lending. And then, a hard money. So a hard money is they are somebody, we've had a couple hard money lenders on our show throughout the years. Actually, we had one person who's a traditional. But hard money it should be part of your portfolio. And people are, that's the one they're afraid of. And actually, if you are, I have a resource. If you go to my website, dexterbjenkins.com/hard money, I have a whole resource on hard money, what it is, why you should use it. And actually, we had an interview with Rob Nichols, who actually we recorded that. But people are extremely afraid of hard money, and the reason why is because the interest rates are higher
Correct.
than traditional money, traditional lending. And there's a reason for that, which we don't have time to get into tonight. And then the other one is private lenders, private money. And so the private money is, people who may have some private investors, or maybe people who may have some money on the sideline, so they got a lot of money in the bank. And we know what banks are giving us for interest rate, right? Fairly low. And so if you can come to them and say, hey, look, I'll give you just say 8 or 9% or whatever, you decide with your private money for the benefit of using your money and for you benefiting of getting a high interest rate. It's a win-win situation. And so, and then you can also do self-directed IRAs is another thing, so there's just a lot of different ways that you can use that. But, you want to have a multitude of banking relationships. So very much like we talked about with the contractors.
Correct.
2 and 3 of those. Yep. You want to have 2 and 3 hard money lenders you have a relationship with, which we do. You want to have 2 or 3 people that you have a traditional bank relationship with. You want to have a number of private people that you're talking to. That's where our next phase is developing that out. But you want to have a multitude of banking relationship. Because watch this. Sometimes things change even in the banks.
Correct.
Some are lending, some are not. Some get cold feet and they don't want to do nothing. We ain't gonna do nothing based off that. And so if you have only dealt with this particular lender, and then all of a sudden another COVID hits or whatever else, we ain't lending. Or if you only dealt with one hard money person, well, we ain't doing that. We freezing everything. Well, dude, now I got a project that I'm doing. So, you always want to be developing these relationships, multiple 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 relationships of that. People, I got people that we have relationships with here. I got people that in Atlanta, and I got people in Detroit, and I got people in different places. Now, am I doing business in Atlanta? No. Am I doing business in Detroit? No, not yet. But I recognize that, hey, you never know when you want to be able to tap into those dollars because things change. And so if things change, you don't want to be stuck holding the bag.
Correct.
So,
and I think it's important too it all goes back to the numbers.
Correct.
So who are you using for what, right? So
Right.
if you're trying to move fast, usually it's hard money, and hopefully,
most of the time.
And if it's
hard or private.
hard or
can
private,
move really fast.
So like, what can you get too fast?
Or cash if you have your own sometimes.
Exactly. Or, sometimes you can't get the rehab loan, right, on the property. So it's like hard money usually is good for that. So there's sort of.
Yeah, because everyone, all the 4 that we mentioned have their own different strengths. Your cash money is obviously your cash, but sometimes you don't want to deploy your cash in something else. You want to use OPM or other people's money. So it just depends. And it just depends on your own your own level with debt and all that, which is a whole nother discussion. But traditional lending is usually very slow. You know, so if I'm looking at a house in Brockton, like we looked at on Monday,
Yep.
and if we want to put an offer in it, well, I can't go to my traditional lender and try to get a loan.
close
Because
in
number one, they
30
don't
to
want to
60
do
days.
most of all, they don't want to do rehab. That's number one. And then number two, they looking at me like, fill out this application. I mean, that's going to take like 6 weeks, you know, for them to fund it. Well, a hard money lender can move a lot faster. And so what you're doing is you're paying a hard money or a private lender.
Correct.
Can move quick, and you know this in real estate. Time
Is of the
is
essence.
of the essence. You know, time can kill a deal or it can seal a deal. If you can move fast, you can get it.
Yes.
Now, if you move slow, you missed it. So
Yep.
we should say back in the day, you slow, you blow. You slow, you blow. You missed that because you were slow. And so you want to have all of these banking relationships, all of these money relationships, multiple relationships, and you'll be surprised at the amount of people around you who will be willing to invest with you. Now, you have to show that you ain't flaky.
And you need to have contracts.
And you got to have contracts and all, that's a whole nother thing. But, you know, there are a lot of people around you who have money. They got 40, 50,000 sitting in an account somewhere that they want to deploy. And then you have to have a level of competence and confidence in order to do that. You know, so you'll grow in that. But, you know, the circles that we run in, because this is what the deal is. We're going to end on this because we got like, it's 8:30 now. You will never have enough money. Because there are just always deals out there.
around, yep.
Always deals out there. And so if you don't have enough money, you want to tap into other people's money to do that. And so there's millions, trillions of dollars on the sidelines waiting to be invested. They're just looking for common people to do it. So.
Agreed. Well, we only got to 7, but thank you. Let's give it up for Dexter. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Dexter and Kendra.
And I will have him close us out with his usual closing.
Yes. So hopefully you guys have gotten something out of the 10 commandments of real estate investing. We only got to 7, so we'll come back and do the other 3. Not next, maybe in December we'll do the other 3. But you know, it's just really, and matter of fact, I told you we got 20 of them. We only did put 10 in this document. But it's really just to give you some principles, some things that we've learned since 2016, 2017 on real estate investing. So until next month, we will see you. Have a good night. Be blessed. Bye-bye.